Recording.
And we're live. I love when you do that. Can you say, and we're live?
And we're live.
Yes. Welcome to another episode of the Record Shepherds. How's everybody doing? Danny, how you doing?
Fantastic.
Jason, how you doing?
I'm good. Feeling it this week.
You want to do this amazing intro for this lovely gentleman we got on the couch today?
Yes, we have. We keep having handsome catches of men on the couch.
Wait, is this a casting couch?
Is it
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, we have Ian Cunningham from Acid Tongue. So welcome in. Welcome. So good to have you on the couch.
Thanks.
And I had the honor of seeing Acid Tongue perform in Brooklyn last night. Very good indeed.
What venue?
Our Wicked Lady, up on the roof, and it was a hot night, but it was even hotter up there because you guys brought it, and
Thanks,
it was really good to see. There's a lot of good bands actually. I saw another good band on before, so it was a good night all around. Yeah.
No, we came in last week and we played TVI Friday night, and then Jonathan Tubin that books. I think he owns TVI, and then he also does those Sunday Soul Screams at Our Wicked Lady. Was DJing the night we played on Friday, and loved it so much that literally like Saturday daytime they just like added us to the bill and threw us on last minute. So it was great. I mean, all weekend was amazing. Both sets were so cool.
What's your favorite venue to play at in New York?
I mean, Our Wicked Lady's roof was definitely up there. TVI, I think, is my new favorite venue.
Nice.
My go-to before that probably would have been Babies.
Baby's all right.
And then I went to Arlene's Grocery this weekend to see a friend's band. Our friends Las Nubes from Florida played, and that was cool. I hadn't been there yet, but
we got this in our neighborhood. We got this new venue, Brooklyn made. It was like all the hype, because it was sort of, we didn't have this size capacity venue in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And so now we have something like it that's like maybe a little bit lower capacity than like a Brooklyn Steel, but it just offers, a different type of artist to be able to come in and, make money and tap into the fan base here.
That's cool. Yeah, I've gone to Sultan Room. I used to work with them because I used to work doing marketing for a indie booking agency. We did a lot of shows that we booked at Sultan Room, and then I'm going to Knitting Factory tomorrow, RIP, before they shut down.
Oh, they're shutting down?
They're shutting down. They just announced like a week ago. Knitting Factory is shutting down. So.
Sultan Room is awesome. I was there a couple weeks ago seeing some bands in the rooftop.
Yeah.
And also at the lower one, the big stage. That was amazing. They had like a jazz piano guy. It was nice.
You guys got some good rooms, man. You got some good shit here.
So maybe, Jason, we could step back and talk about why it's important. Yeah, there's obviously a lot of great bands out there, a lot of people doing their thing, but maybe talk about why it was important that we got Ian on here specifically.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Ian and I know each other, and we were having a conversation like a couple of months back. And, a guy of many hidden talents, I think it's fair to say.
Thanks.
But quite honestly, just in terms of like the band Acid Tongue and what you guys are about, that fits absolutely squarely within what we're about here on the Record Shepherds podcast.
Cool.
And, I looked at your website, and it talks about a band bringing timeless rock and roll with a DIY mentality. Yeah. And like that DIY mentality, that's like exactly the sort of stuff that we're trying to talk about here on the podcast. And ultimately, it's all about sharing information, sharing like tips and, just best practices, and helping other artists who are either in a similar position or not as far along in their journey, and just everyone trying to like share and impart valuable information. So like, I know Ian, you in particular have like expertise in digital marketing, and as we keep saying, it's 2022. Everything is digital. We live in a digital era, and it's only going to be more digital, more online as time goes on. So definitely love to, explore a little bit about that on today's episode, as to, what you're seeing, what you're in terms of trends, and like just tips and tricks and everything, and what you feel is important for independent artists, etc.
So let me ask to kick it off, what does the DIY mentality mean to you, and how does that mentality differentiate the decisions that you guys as a band make versus maybe other bands that don't have that mentality?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been a band for 6, almost 7 years now, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 7, maybe almost 8. I take that back. 2015, I think. Yeah, 2015. My lead singer guy used to work for. He was actually in marketing too. He did marketing for Numos, the venue in Seattle. And then I played. Basically, I came out of college. We both played in bands. We met each other through playing in bands together. He was working at Numos, and then left that, and we started our own label with a buddy at KXP, and didn't know anything at that point. We were just basically, to back up even more, he had been doing this very, very DIY music festival for a couple years before we had the idea to do the label. It was originally called the Psychedelic Holiday Freakout. It's now called the Freakout. It's still happening. It's actually, they're announcing their lineup tomorrow. It's just gotten bigger and bigger every year.
In Seattle?
Yeah, it's in November in Seattle. It's kind of the only like late fall winter fest, which strategically has played out really well for us over the years because, you know, there's a lot of summer fests. Everybody's doing stuff in like June, July, August.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Desert Trip Desert Days is in late September, but that's usually kind of the latest anybody goes. And Freakout's always like the weekend before everyone leaves for Thanksgiving. So you're always kind of home that week anyway, because you know you're going to leave the next week. So everyone's around. There's no one that's like, oh, I can't make it. I have something going.
That's so true. I experienced that on a road trip, my first and only time in New Orleans.
Yeah.
I was there like the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I think it was the only quiet week of the year.
Exactly.
In New Orleans.
Yeah.
It was
It's when it's just
washout.
locals around. So he's been doing this festival for a few years now, and originally, I mean, if you want to talk about DIY, those first couple years of that fest were like DIY in the worst way. There was just like really terrible small venues that weren't really set up to like host a concert. The festival lost so much money. I remember him like stiffing bands back in the day. Like it was just like not a good situation. But it's grown and it's gotten much better, and it's like a full-fledged operation now. But we started this label basically just off the back of a few years of the fest, and being like, well, this is great and this is fun, but it'd be nice if we did something that didn't happen only once a year and could just kind of like invest our time into something bigger. So we started Freakout Records, and none of us knew anything, really, honestly. We like had a guy that made tape cassettes, and we knew how to order CDs online, but I didn't know what a distributor was until we like launched our own label. We didn't have a publicist. We didn't have money. I think that was the biggest thing that you probably need when you're launching a label is money. But it was like a couple early 20-something kids and this older guy that like had a full-time job. So it was just like a very like mishmash operation. But yeah, through all that, I mean, those first couple of years running the label, met a lot of people. Just was we weren't making money, but it was kind of my full-time gig for a minute there, just like really trying to get that off the ground. So kind of plugged myself in, and then eventually fast forward, moved to LA and got some jobs working in social media. That led to meeting some people in the kind of classic rock catalog world, which led to more gigs. I worked on some movies. I've managed a few bands. I was a graphic designer for a while. Worked at that booking agency I talked about. So like kind of over the last like 4 years, I've short of like manually making my own vinyl, I kind of have done everything at this point.
Yeah, you're almost like your own music industry
a little
this
bit.
stage.
Yeah. I haven't gotten my own sync, but that's about it.
Well, it's just so interesting because when bands or acts or groups start out, they're not necessarily thinking about, oh, let's start a record label, especially with no experience or not really knowing how it runs. So what was the decision making process in that? Just we want to keep this going, you know?
We were just dumb.
Nice.
Like it's such a stupid. Like we were just like hanging out drinking, and we were like, it'd be cool if we started a festival, and then we like threw it in our basement, and then we were like, we should start a label. Yeah, it's like the way that I think some like finance bros when they're drunk are like, we should buy a bar. Like there wasn't a lot of thought that went into it, but then you do it and you're like, okay, well now I guess we're in this. And again, like both of these operations have magically, I mean, it's not magic, it was a lot of hard work, but like have become established things. Like Freak Out as a label has started to really like get a name that's familiar at radio stations around the country, and actually globally. Like we have a really strong fan base in France. We've been in Rolling Stone out there a few times and gotten some, like the label and the festival got like a 4-page spread in Rolling Stone France. So we do a lot in Mexico. My lead singer has a radio show in Mexico City and a side project that's like a punk band with some of our friends in Mexico City. So, and we've toured from Mexico City to South by, gone through like Monterey and a bunch of cities. So I mean, it has kind of spread internationally, and it's not just like a local Seattle thing, which is what I'm really proud of. But at I think back to that point of like, what was the kind of thought process? I think it was really just, we weren't going to get signed by like Matador Records as this nobody band from Seattle with one EP out. And so we were kind of taking the bull by the horns and being like, okay, well, if like some label is not going to sign us and we don't want to just sit around waiting for that to happen, which I think is the problem that a lot of bands have, is this kind of skewed reality of like, I think there's too many autobiographies or biopics of like Scar Tissue, or even Meet Me in the Bathroom talks a lot about how the Strokes just got like wined and dined and got sushi, and then like they would like do all this. Like none of that exists. No one's buying you sushi.
Blame it on Hollywood.
Exactly. Like no one's flying you out for some private meeting with some big exec. Like it's not happening. You know what I mean? It's like, stop waiting for someone to come find you and just be proactive and get out there. Because I think, not that they're my favorite examples, but like Macklemore, unfortunately, like now I'm going to reference another Seattle guy, huge fan, love him. But like to his credit, like they did a really good job of being like, okay, well, we're just going to build this ourselves. And it was only once he started like really moving units and climbing charts did Warner come along and be like, oh, we want a piece of this, you know? And I think that's a healthier mentality to have than waiting for, you know, Sony to just come discover you because you're God's gift to the music industry.
Well, that seems to be like the two biggest ways to get quote unquote discovered, right? Yeah. It's either you put in a bunch of work yourself, you know, over this long career where you have moderate success, and then maybe a label comes to pick you up, or you have songs that just blow up on TikTok or you know, digitally, and then you get picked up that way. Yeah. But I think it's been widely argued that you have a way more leverage with the first part of it. You know?
Yeah, I think it's like, how patient are you, and also how rich are your parents? I think those are the two things, right? Like any miraculous like blow up overnight artist had rich parents. That's how the whole world works.
We were talking about that, I think, in a previous episode. There, you know, in LA, there's a lot of these like, you know, oh, so what do you do full time? I just make music. Really? How do you do that? Oh, well, you know, I just do it.
Never had a hard day in their fucking life. Yeah. I mean, even like the Strokes are a good example, right? Like Julian Casablancas' dad was already fucking rich, and so was Albert Hammond. Like it's not. I think someone was talking about this recently with the whole Arcade Fire thing, because they all came from a wealthy background too. It's not necessarily that like the money. I mean, I'm sure money opens extra doors for you in those scenarios, and that's great and all. But it's, even if the parents aren't just like funding $80,000 recording sessions, what it is exactly what you're talking about. It's like Julian Casablancas doesn't have to get a day job waiting tables, so that's like 6 extra hours in the day that he can really work on like honing his craft and doing all that stuff. And also, you don't really worry the same way because you know you have a fallback plan and you can move into the 6th bedroom in your parents' house or something. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think back to your point, like, the paths that are kind of there for you, if there's any sort of real path, it's like the quick one-hit wonder TikTok version, which is great. Like, do that, focus on TikTok, because it's, I think, the best platform in terms of like organic discovery for up and coming artists. Like, you know, and I'm sure that'll change soon, and like algorithms will change, and TikTok wants more like advertising money. So I'm sure it won't always be as nice as it is right now, but you know, on Instagram, I have to pay anytime I want people that already follow my page to see what I'm posting. TikTok is reaching you out to new people that aren't following you in the first place. So it kind of lends itself to new artists and to discovery a little bit better. But yeah, like you were saying, like the kind of original route that we kind of chose was release your records, kind of do your thing, and then people will come to you when you've kind of stuck it out long enough. And I think at this point, I think I have to just kind of hold on to that and believe that, like, if I just keep doing this for 5 more years or like 10 more years or 20 more years, like, there's no way it won't pay off. And I think it is starting to for us. And I feel really good about where our band is right now. But it is like, that's a long, grueling road, man, to just be like, I'm just going to keep doing this, and I'm going to keep paying for publicists and studio time and artwork and all of these things out of my like day job.
We have Peter the Beagle strikes again.
Yes, there is there is a dog in the studio, so
they know him. You might know him by now.
He's been on camera a few times.
He's about to be on camera again when he knocks it on the floor.
So I think it's interesting because with the finance thing, it's almost like we're redefining what it means to be truly independent, right? I think a lot of people would be surprised to discover that, you know, a lot of these up and coming independent bands might have like a production company financing them, or something in the background that helps pay for the things like you're talking about, like the independent publicist or like the digital marketing that you have to spend. So yeah, maybe we can get into the digital marketing aspect of like what you do. So what are some, maybe if you can outline some best practices in the digital marketing space that you apply to your band?
I will start by saying I think I do what I say, not what I do. I think I'm technically better at like spouting this stuff for other people than for myself. Like my band's not really active on TikTok. I think we've posted twice. It's just, you know, I have a day job working in digital marketing and music. And so kind of all of my time and energy and effort goes into other people's massive TikToks and not my own. But I do think the most important thing, which I'm sure everyone's told you a million times, is just like kind of having your own voice and being authentic. And I think that really gets people can like really overcorrect on that one and like try to fake some sort of like authenticity very easily, or think that they need a like hook somehow in their like authenticity.
Basically your message is like, when you're representing yourself on these social platforms and online, it's just being the most authentic you that you can be.
I think it's
so if TikTok
it's
is
not even
your
about
thing,
being the most, it's like, do you actually have something to say? And if you don't have something to say, maybe just go away until you do. Like there's enough bands out here. Like if you have a message, we want that. And like we want bands we resonate with and connect with. We don't need just like psych rock dudes playing the Doors riffs and then like trying to take up that space. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think what is really important about music is the power it has to connect people.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, you know? When you make something that really comes from your heart, and it's something that you really believe, and it's something that you really stand for, that connects and resonates with people. And that's what we as artists are always looking for, you know? We're trying to find ourselves and be the best version of ourselves so we can connect with people, you know? And that's the beauty of it. Like once you find your own like magic and your own beauty, that resonates with people, you know? Obviously, not all kinds of music resonate with all kinds of people, you know? Like
totally.
It's just the way it is.
To my mind, you know, it's easier for artists, you know, true artists, to come up with the music, and you know the music ultimately is just the translation of everything you've just talked about, Danny, about like what's in here, that expression, etc. But I think where it comes, like, you know, what is more difficult is exactly what Ian's talking about, is like, you know, we all know that social media and like Instagram especially, it's like you're putting out another portrayal of yourselves. Like everyone does it, right? Even like, you know, you don't have to be an artist, you don't have to be a band or whatever, but it's a curated form of representation of what you're about. So it's, you know, and we're influenced, right? Artists are influenced just by what they're consuming and like the way things are written, etc., the way photos are staged or what have you. So it's, I think for a lot of the time there'll be a lot of artists who actually just struggle to find their social media voice.
Yeah,
you know, we talk about it like that.
I think I'm just sorry. I didn't mean to like go off on a like.
No, I love it.
Everybody who's like fake queer. That wasn't the point. I'm just like really frustrated right now, especially like in this weekend of like, you know, Roe v. Wade was just shot down, and like everyone's kind of figuring out where we as a society stand and like how to have these sorts of conversations, and it's really been frustrating to kind of see everything just be superficial, right? Like it's not about music. It's not about this song. It's about if 5 seconds of the song is catchy enough that it explodes on TikTok, right? It's not really about the message. It's about like the catchiness. It's not really about what a brand stands for. It's like how PC they can be and funny on Twitter, even if they're like donating to fucking these like Republican anti-abortion groups, right? It's not really about like getting in the streets and doing something. It's about coming up with like a quippy, funny sign and standing outside of City Hall for like a day and then going back to just being frustrated and that's to me, it's like, it's so much of like social media. As the digital marketing guy, it's annoying that my job revolves around this thing where we're supposed to be superficial and like performative without any substance. And I think that's the struggle for all indie musicians, is like, how do you play that game? Because you have to, because like, how else are you going to get out there if you're not on Instagram and you're not on Spotify and you're not on TikTok? Like, then you're just, playing in your room by yourself.
Yeah.
But like, how do you also like connect with people and like have a message and, communicate something? And I honestly, like, again, don't listen to what I say, but more than what I do, like it took even us, like we've been a band for 7 years. I only really feel like, I love my vocalist's like songwriting ability, and I think his songs really resonate with people. I feel like we as a band have only really figured out what we stand for on like a fundamental, like core level in like the last maybe like 2 years, Yeah, my lead singer Guy writes everything. Kind of the structure we have is he comes in with 1 million demos and songs that he feels excited about and brings them to me. And we typically, the last couple albums especially, like we'll go into the studio, we'll track everything, and then kind of he hands it to me and lets me do the producing side and the polishing side. But like lyricist and core structure, like that's all kind of him. And then I kind of polish it all up and do the like aesthetic side of it.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I think back to what you were saying, like it feels like maybe 30, 40 years ago, if a group or a song lacks something in the substance and made up for in the musical capability.
Yeah.
And it seems like we don't even have that now. And you were talking, I definitely empathize with, if you come from a musical background or you're just used to liking groups that have substance, to now your job being participating in this matrix of the music industry. I understand how that could be frustrating,
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I'm so contrarian. I feel like this whole conversation, like I also fundamentally am not one of, I'm so much like not one of these guys that's like, Spotify has ruined everything and people need, like, it's so like much worse than it was 50 years ago. Like, I think that's bullshit. I think the music industry honestly is in like a better place than it's ever been. I think like anyone who like, fuck Spotify. I think Spotify fucking sucks. However, you either get 0.003 cents per stream, or 20 years ago it was LimeWire and you got 0.000 cents per stream.
Right.
So at least that's like fractionally better, even if the company like ethics I don't believe in. But even if you go farther back, everyone, kind of totes the like 60s and 70s. And it's like, well, the record labels made all that money. The artists never saw any of it. Most of them signed terrible deals. I know the guys in the Turtles were like fighting for like 50 years to try to get any sort of royalties back from their records. And those were like hit songs, So I don't know. I don't like fundamentally think that like everything's lost and like music is just going to plummet. I actually think we're in a good place. I think though that like, yeah, like you said, it's like figuring out your voice. I don't know. I don't even know what that means. I think it's really just like, I don't know where I'm going with this. I think where I'm trying to go with this is it's a real hard balancing act of being told you need to post on TikTok like 5 times a day, which is not true. By the way, if I can impart any wisdom, having talked to people at TikTok, do not post 5 times a day. Their recommendation is like 2 to 3 times a week, which is still a lot. But
okay,
like
that is actually valuable.
Tips and tricks, 101.
There you go. There's the first cert
Put
of
up
a tip. 2 to 3 TikToks a day.
Don't post 2 to 3 times a day.
A week.
A week is enough.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But like even then, you're like so many I worked with a lot of up and coming artists, especially when I was doing like label services and managing in the pandemic, and it's really easy to like get anxiety. I mean, you saw the whole like Halsey TikTok Twitter conversation a couple weeks ago. Like it's really easy to get burned out on all the extra shit you have to do.
But I think you're right. Like I don't necessarily want to see the Alabama Shakes posting on TikTok.
Totally.
Or Emily King, or like sometimes the substance of the music says all it needs to, right? Yeah. It's just about putting in that groundwork.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, like, the perfect person at this is Anthony Kiedis. Have you ever seen Anthony Kiedis on social media ever?
No.
The dude's never been on any platform, ever. And that's great. Like, he's doing it right. You just like let the Red Hot Chili Peppers official account post all that shit. But I've never seen it. Like, Flea's on there because Flea like genuinely enjoys it and loves having these conversations with like Patti Smith and, you know, kind of having like elevated like discourse. But I don't know. I don't know Anthony Kiedis, but I assume he was just like, fuck this. I don't want anything to do with it. You're not making me get on there. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers are still as successful as ever. He hasn't gotten like canceled for something. You know, it's just like he lets the well, yeah, I'm sure he
Jason,
could be,
risk management.
What are you were saying the other day that most of the money that comes to the record labels and the industry in streaming actually comes from all catalogs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Like, if you look across like the stats of like what's been streamed the most, etc. I mean, obviously, we're talking about catalog like hits, you know, prior hits, you know, like so. There's just a lot more of it for a start than like the hits of right here and now in 2022. Yeah. But
it's also like, coincidentally, I also work in catalog. The other side of that, I think what really helps just watching it is, I hate that I'm going to talk about this, the Kate Bush thing, the whole Kate Bush moment.
Yeah.
Like the world of sync and like film and television really does love those like hit songs and like having those moments because they like resonate with people because it's a song that's familiar to you. Like it is, there are a lot of directors and music, like obviously like music supervisors are there because they love discovering new music. That's the reason they got that job, is they're like passionate about new music.
There's a big need for that too, because there's so much content being created all the time.
But you watch and like the Netflixes love the Kate Bush song, the Motley Crue song, the Rolling Stone. Like how many times has Sympathy for the Devil been synced? Like a bajillion times.
Way too many.
And then there's all these indie bands like begging for a shot, you know, and it's just because people are familiar with that stuff. So I think it's almost this kind of like reinforcing cycle of, you know, very famous song that you grew up with from your childhood gets synced in a television show, which reminds you how much you love said song from your childhood. So you go download the album on Spotify, you listen to it a bunch, you know, and so it's, you just like, you like your comfort food, you know?
This isn't,
you like what you like.
Yeah.
Right.
And I won't say this is controversial, but I do feel like in the music industry today, there's a lot of emphasis on acquisition, specifically of catalog, and you'll notice a lot of huge artists are selling their catalogs lately because of this very thing. Because at the end of the day, catalog is what's the most profitable in the music industry. For me, I don't necessarily think that should be the main driver of why we're in music, right? I think, like you were saying, most people going into the music business are doing so because they want to participate in new music and discover new artists. And I think a lot of companies who are quote unquote being innovative or not being innovative are, you know, their whole thing is like, how do we reinvent the music that we already have versus spending a ton of money trying to break new artists? And a lot of folks will call that an obsession with breaking new artists. But I think you can have both. Like, I think there's no, for me, it's fun. It's a challenge to try to break a new artist in like an oversaturated digital market today, while also appreciating old catalog and realizing that's what pays the bills. Yeah,
I mean, I think if you're getting into the music industry to become rich, get the fuck out of the music industry. You're in the wrong place. Go into tech. And don't go into music tech. Music tech is stupid. They're all terrible people.
NFTs.
Stay out of music tech. That's the worst place to be. If you were at fucking VidCon this weekend, I don't want to talk to you. I think it's two separate things. I think catalog is like venture capital firms fighting each other and like succession money, and like breaking bands and the DIY and like indie world is just like people that are passionate about, and I don't mean that like, you know, the venture capital people aren't also passionate about music. I just think it's like it's like two different, well, some of them not so much, but it's like two different games, right? Like it's like two entirely different music industries that don't like, there's not that much in common, and it's the same apparatus in that like there's like Spotify and Apple and they're on both platforms, but you know, the conversations I'm having in my day job about like what's best for Motley Crue and what their year looks like, and then the conversations I'm having at home about like Acid Tongue's year and what we have coming up, like those are not there's not much overlap there other than that we are on the same platforms by nature.
I think it's like it is very much two different games, but the reality is, you know, like Anthony Kiedis, he was in the Chili Peppers for a long time before social media came along. He'd made his name, so I guess it's like, you know, for people, I think it's like exactly what you were saying. It's like we're in this game now, and it's like you got to operate within the sort of frame using the tools that are available.
Yeah.
And it's like, it is a bit of it's almost like it's a necessary evil to a lot of people. They don't want to be on it.
I think, you know, I would almost live your advice, because like as much as I'm like the spokesperson for everything that is good about DIY, like we're at a position right now, like we just recorded our 4th album. We're really proud of it. We're really excited about it. It's kind of like on a more, I don't know, it's on another level. I am kind of at that place where I'm like ready to sell my soul and like sign a deal somewhere because, and like knowing that I'm not going to make any money.
Yeah.
But just, and that it's going to be a terrible deal and I'm going to get hosed. But just the idea that like, you know, if I got on a label like a Domino or a Matador, kind of the doors that get open for you as a band just because radio stations recognize that label name, and like they obviously have like an in-house press person, like all of that to me after 7 years feels kind of worth it. But it's because we've built up for 7 years to get to this point where I'm like comfortable handing it off now.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. And like that is something that, you know, I think, you know, as a message, like nobody here on this couch or involved with the Record Shepherds would ever advise someone not to sign a deal with a record label. I mean, they're still responsible for breaking more artists, you know, in a big way than anyone really. But as you say, it's kind of like the days of just someone being scooped up based on the first live show that they do. Like it just doesn't happen anymore. And I think it's like everything that Acid Tongue have been doing, and like, you know, like everything that you've talked about this DIY mentality, and be prepared to like get to a level where all of a sudden it's like, okay, well there is something of substance here that we could actually as a label work with. And like, you know, it's almost like the initial hard yards have been done. And it's almost like a proven recipe.
I mean, I think
it to the next level.
You know, it's 7 years of starting our own label, failing a lot in that, but, you know, turning it into something, starting our own festival, touring on our credit cards, years of like renting a Jetta and shoving a de-assembled drum kit into the trunk, and there's like the two of us making no money in the South. Or like I put like one entire European tour on my credit card and it took like 3 years to pay off.
Actually, this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because and I was trying to figure it out as we were talking earlier there, and you said, okay, well, you had the label came up, and then there was opportunities like Guy has the radio show in Mexico City, and because one of the things I was like, okay, so you're starting this band, you're basically it's born out of Seattle, you moved to LA, but you're playing internationally, like you're getting gigs in Europe and things like that. And one of the questions I had asked is like, how did those shows come about? And as an independent artist band, what's that like, trying to like organize all those shows to get over there, play them? Hell of an experience.
So Guy's old project was like a stoner rock band called Fox and Law, and they did a KEXP in studio in probably like 2013 that some guys in the UK saw, and they had this little indie label called Failure by Design, and they reached out to Guy and they were like, we love your band, we saw you on KEXP, we're here in London, we would love to just like put some of your music out here. And so Guy and them jumped at that, and they did a couple of just early UK tours through that label, which made no money, but it got him out there, got them kind of introduced to the scene. Guy met a lot of people out there, and basically then when we started Acid Tongue, we showed it to the Failure by Design guys, and they loved that too. And so they put out our first couple EPs and helped us get out there, and you know, they would put us in touch with the right person to get our first show in London and that sort of thing. The first like full Europe tour I think was probably 2017, and it was honestly, I don't even know how it came about. I think Guy, a lot of our friends were touring. Well, not a lot of our friends, but some people Guy knew were touring. And so we would ask like, who's the agent you worked with? And we'd get connected to the guy, Luca, we're now working with. And so they would kind of help us put our first couple runs together. I will say like being an American band in Europe or being an American band in Mexico goes a lot farther than being an American band in Texas. Like nobody gives a shit about you when you play in Austin, but just being an American and like making the effort to get out there, I think everybody's a lot more receptive, and you kind of start off on a better foot when you go internationally. I mean, in Europe, promoters feed you, like you all sit down for a big meal together before you play the show. They like in so many cities, like in Italy, they would like bring us homemade pasta and shit and just like have this huge dinner with us. We'd all sit for a while. They give you a place to stay every night. It's just like a given. Amazing. And that is not what you get when you tour here. You play, a show in Philly and they're like, all right, great, here's $10, go to McDonald's, we'll see you later.
Drink
you know
tickets.
What I mean? Yeah, you get 2 drink tickets, that's it.
So was it a goal for you guys starting out to develop a base internationally, or that just sort of happened based off of the type of music you were making?
Yeah, I mean, I think Guy had a little success already with his thing, so we knew that there was some lane there for us. I don't know if I would say, yeah, I think we kind of did intentionally really like focus there because I think we knew it was going to be a little bit more receptive for us to go outside the States, just in terms of like, those first few years you're just begging for anybody to pay attention to you, and you're just trying to kind of get your name ringing around in people's heads. And so it just proved itself to be a little bit easier there. And the Mexico thing actually was kind of a fluke, but Guy was living here for a while, and our friends in this band LA Witch were out, and their drummer Ellie ended up staying with Guy for a few days and brought her best friend Yasmina. And what was supposed to be like 3 days staying on Guy's couch turned into like a week staying on Guy's couch. And Yasmina lives in Mexico City, and she was the one that was like, someday you should come visit me. Thanks for letting me stay in your house for a week and a half. And so then Guy hit her up and took her up on that offer and was like, yeah, we'd love to come down. And she actually runs a label down in Mexico City too, and a festival of her own. So she basically became our like de facto tour manager / translator / keyboardist, because she played in the band for a bit too. And so she brought us down and helped us just kind of put all that stuff together. It's just kind of all these relationships, right? It's like going out and meeting people, and like doors open just because you meet other people, and then you see some band you love that you're friends with tours Europe, and you just ask them, how did you guys get that? And they connect you with the right email with somebody to put that together. I mean, we pre-pandemic, like right before the pandemic, we're looking at finally kind of making the jump and going to Australia, New Zealand, and we were even talking about a Japan tour, which I think we've just kind of backburnered for right now, because that's like a whole other game. Going to Australia or Japan is, the flights are twice as much money, and just logistically it's a massive hassle. But also like Japan, you need a translator and a driver, and you need a publicist out there, just because it doesn't connect the same way as like a write up in the UK kind of crosses over. Like an NME write up kind of hits both countries. It doesn't really work the same. So that's like a bigger commitment, and a little bit more than I think a DIY mentality can handle, is like 15 to 20 grand.
Yeah, that's a lot. And even planning something like that, that's like a lot of work goes into that.
But yeah, I mean, we've put together these DIY tours and with help from indie agents for years now, and I think it's just finally now starting to kind of really pay off.
That's fantastic.
You were telling us earlier that when you started the band, it was kind of like, when you started the whole label and the whole, the whole business basically.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, we're gonna have fun and try it. But there was a point where that transitioned into something a little more serious.
Yeah.
And you really started building. How was that transition? What triggered that transition?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I was pre-med in college. I was supposed to be a doctor. I was like friends with some of the board of a medical school. I had gone on a medical trip to Peru. I was like so far in.
Wow, Dr. Cunningham.
Yeah, way less tattoos, but I was so far in. I was ready. I was working at 2 hospitals, working like 100 hours a week for a while. And then I just remember one day being like, I don't actually really enjoy this. I'm just kind of doing it because I thought I was supposed to. And I think fundamentally the things I wanted to get out of medicine were like connecting with people. I'm very extroverted, and then traveling, and then realizing like, oh, there are other opportunities to do those things. And I was playing in bands. I've been playing in bands since high school. So the idea of just kind of focusing on that more full time, even pre-Acid Tongue, was really appealing to me. And I always knew I wanted to move to LA. And so it just kind of, I don't know, it was always kind of in my head. But I also had a son at 21, which I think it just kind of makes you, I mean, obviously it just makes you grow up a lot quicker, and it's been the best thing ever. But also, I don't have the same luxury of like, I'm just gonna crash on people's couches for 4 years, and I don't need an apartment and a lease. Like I need a little bit more stability, and I need a little more income than I think a lot of musicians in their early 20s. And so I think maybe that just influenced things a bit to just be like, okay, well, we're gonna do this. We got to take it seriously.
Wow.
I have this child. I have
yeah.
this like serious responsibility. I'm like, we're doing it. You know.
Of course, it's a combination of being able to find your own passion and being able to find, again, what we love and we do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, know that we have responsibilities.
Yeah.
And we got to pay our bills.
Totally. And I think, you know,
you got to mix it.
Yeah, there was a couple years, I would say most of my 20s, like I wasn't making much and kind of prioritized the band over like a career. And so I mean, it was definitely a struggle for a long time, and I'm definitely, you know, could have had a real career and like stable paychecks a lot quicker than I did. But I do think like all that experience really added up, and the fact that I have kind of done a little bit of everything has really proven to be extremely valuable for me. And I've, you know, kind of turned me into this like Swiss Army knife of the music industry where I can just kind of proactively do anything. And I feel really good about where I am right now of just like having this like major label music job that's like stable and it's
Peace
there,
of mind.
and
It's
like
called
peace of mind. Yeah. But then also like this band
Yes.
that's like starting to be successful and like people are paying attention and noticing, and having these successful shows this weekend was just like such a nice, it was just like this weekend was such a great experience for me. I had the best weekend just because, you know, it just felt like it really resonated, and it wasn't going across the country to beg the 3 people that you went to college with to like come out to your bar show. You know what I mean?
Now you have a fan base. Now you have people that love you and people that really care for you.
And I think even like it's that DIY. Like I was telling my girlfriend, like every show, I'm so terrified that 3 people are going to be there. Like no matter how many years we've been doing this, it could be my hometown in Seattle where we can like fill a venue. Like no matter what show, I'm always like convinced there's no one there. You know. And so it is like this like mental check now to be like, oh no, we do have a fan base, and like people know who you guys are, and Guy and I have been recognized a lot more the last like year than ever before, which is like a weird new experience for me.
Yeah, you are quite recognizable. You're a big dude with tattoos.
Big dude with tattoos.
You've not gone peroxide.
Bleached hair. If I don't have bleached hair, I have a very recognizable mustache.
So kind of in the beginning, you had talked about acts needing to have something to say.
Yeah.
So what does Acid Tongue have to say?
Yeah, I think Guy is always the better person to answer that as the lyricist, but you know, I know a lot of his songs are just a lot of things for us are both rooted right now in sobriety and mental health. I didn't necessarily have like a drinking problem per se, but I was just kind of over it all, and I gave that up 3.5 years ago. So I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't do anything. Guy talked about this publicly, so I know I'm okay talking about it, but he was diagnosed with bipolar a couple years ago, and got on medication, and in the process of getting on meds, like he gave up drinking and he gave up drugs, and it's just watching him, like he's kind of completely rewired the last couple of years and has completely like it sounds cliche, he's a so much better person now. And so I think for us, it's a lot of that is kind of sharing that openly and talking about, you know, giving these substances up and how much better off we both are and how much healthier we are, and like just like not only better, more considerate people, but also just more dependable and happier. So a lot of the music's rooted in that. A lot of it is rooted in just kind of songs about heartache and romance and love. And then a lot of it is about just kind of frustrations with where kind of everything I ranted about, or no, not specifically, but just like frustrations with the world and frustrations with. We have a song called "The World's Gonna Fuck You," and a lot of it's about like
you close with that.
A lot of it's just about just all this, like social media's bullshit and fuck Amazon and fuck the government, and fuck like it's just like this whole capitalist bullshit machine that's just like grinding down on you. So the song's kind of, I don't know, I think Guy's songs have always really resonated with people lyrically in a way that I haven't seen from a lot of outside bands, and I think that's something that's really remarkable, even if I wasn't in this project, because I don't feel the same kind of ownership over the lyrics since they're not mine as he does. So it is kind of like I almost do have kind of a backseat to just kind of see how people respond, and it is really incredible to see how his songs like really touch people in that way.
Do you feel like with the songs there's a like a balance? Because I do feel like today it's a pretty heavy time in the world. I would say it's hard to sort of ignore, but and I think a lot of people would benefit from the subject matter you guys talk about, and especially when it comes to mental health.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a balance between writing about that heavy stuff and then just writing a fucking good song that you can jam out and play?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think our band tries to have a really good balance of guy's got that message on lock. He's great with those. I think he's one of the best lyricists out there right now. Also just having banging fucking riffs and being a bunch of idiotic goofballs. Like, it's just like a good balance. Like, our shows are fun. We're funny. We don't take ourselves too seriously. I think that's the other thing too, is just don't take yourself too seriously. Too many bands are just like up their own fucking ass, and like, you can't all be Kanye. Like, just a little humility is nice. You know what I mean?
A little humility is nice.
Just fucking have humility and be appreciative, and don't be a prick to the bartender, and don't be a prick to your opening band, and just be a normal goddamn human, and treat people kindly and have something to say, and be a good fucking hang. That's really
at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, 100%.
We're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat, and we are just trying to make it in this industry, which is very hard.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do what we love. We're also trying to make it good enough so we can reach out a lot of people with our message. We're trying to spread good stuff. That's what we want. That's my approach to pop music. I feel pop music has that power of getting to a lot of people. Just gotta do it in the right way.
I mean, I love, I may have gone off on my weird rant thing. Sorry, I turned this into a Joe Rogan episode.
Not at all.
But
this is what we do. This is fun, man.
But I love pop music. I love hip hop. I love a lot of older country. I'm not a huge fan of the current country music machine, but I love metal. I love I love anything that kind of has substance and has a message and really put like passion and effort into it. And I think it doesn't really matter what genre. Like, you can tell when someone cares and when they poured their soul into something and when they didn't, and plenty of pop music has that too. Obviously, it's I think I feel like I really didn't talk about digital media at all in this, other than to give you one bit of TikTok advice.
I feel this podcast is going to be very, very, very valuable to our listeners, because also this is important to talk about.
Yeah.
See, as musicians and as creators and as marketers and lawyers and everything else that is involved in this industry, we gotta know where everything comes from.
Yeah.
Because without songs and without music, there's no industry.
Yeah.
And the music comes from real life.
Yeah.
That's it. If your music doesn't come from real life, you're gonna need a lot of money and a lot of marketing, and you're not have anything guaranteed.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think we touched on my kid for a minute. I mean, being a dad, I think, like we talked about, kind of having that peace of mind and the stability. It's really easy when we don't play shows and when we don't make records and we take those kind of few weeks off or a month off, or my singer and I are talking every day. It's so easy for me to slip into this fuck this band thing, it's taking too much of my time, it's just a money pit, I'm never doing this again. I gotta quit, this is just, it's too much, I can't handle this, you know what I mean? It's not my real life. And then you do the record and I spent 5 days in the studio and just that's my dream. That's my happiest place. I would love to be a producer someday and just do it for other people. I think I am a good producer and I really enjoy it a lot, and I would love to do more of that. It just brings me a lot of joy. Playing shows this weekend, I haven't had as good of a weekend as I had this weekend in a long time, and I think it's remembering why you're in it, and it's not, again, it's remembering. It's not about money. It's not about to have that stability is important. I'm not in this band for the stability. I'm in this band because it's the one thing that truly gives me joy in life, and I feel like I'm sharing myself with other people, and I've met so many of my friends. I have friends in every city all over the globe because of this band, and because we tour, and because we connect with these people, and you play a festival together, and you form this bond, and 95 Bulls playing before us last night. We left BFFs with that whole band, and
they were awesome, by the way.
And I never met them before last
95
night.
Bulls, they were great.
And now we love each other. You know what I mean? It's just it's nice to have those kind of human experiences that I don't get when I'm just my coworkers are great, and I love my job, and I get a lot of value out of that, but not in the same kind of
yeah, you're not going to be passionate about.
I'm not going to be best friends with all of my coworkers for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's a deeper connection, because at work you kind of gotta keep yourself together. Don't get too personal. But then when it comes to music, it's here we are.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think that first of all, no, it's been super cool having you on the couch, and like as I said at the start, I feel like Acid Tongue are like exactly this type of like group who are embodying everything that we are trying to talk about. And even what you said right at the start about, you know, when you started the label, you didn't know what a distribution arrangement was or anything like that. Like that was our first episode talking about that, and it was actually the first thing you said. But it's like, I think you know, you've also spoken like a lot of truth, like a lot of reality. Like, so there'll be a lot of listeners, and we maybe didn't dive as much into the digital marketing side, but I think part of what you said is like what everybody's thinking. You know, there's like a lot of people, like everyone's thinking this. You don't even need to be an artist to, like, when you're on social media, it's sort of like a lot of the time you just think, like, is this not all just absolute bullshit? So I mean, it's having to navigate that and being aware of it, but you know, I guess finding your path through that and not losing sight. Like it's not all about that. It's just, this is like a necessary part of getting the attention, finding your fan base ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, Guy and I had this conversation when we were in the studio a few weeks ago where, like, even there's something very, I love making albums almost just for myself, because every album I remember like where I was in my life when we recorded that. I remember like the situation we were in and like what was going on with me, and it's kind of like this like scrapbook for me every couple of years when we put a record out. And then there's also something very like, I don't know, woo-woo about like David Bowie dies, but all of that music's still there and that lives on, and like, so if your relationship with him doesn't go away, and like it almost like makes you like, I don't know, immortal to like your music lives on, so you kind of live on through. Like there's something I just find so like beautiful about that, and like your legacy of like being like this documented thing that's gonna live even beyond when you do. And I think, you know, this hyper focus on the digital age right now misses that mark a little bit, because like who the fuck's gonna remember your TikTok in 50 years? Like, and you're not gonna fucking remember that Instagram post in 50 years. So like you're stressing yourself out over these things now that are so superficial and so short. I mean, the nature of social media is to be short term, right? It's supposed to be like this thing you see on your feed, and then 3 seconds later you see something else and it's gone, and like you liked it and that's great, and then you've moved on. You know what I mean? You got your little endorphin rush and it's over. It's like there's nothing about social media that's meant to be permanent. And I think you know, that's the problem when you're it's when you're any musician. I mean, we, you know, work at a label where plenty of like massive artists are getting stressed out over the same thing. And like you have all these conversations with these major artists, and you're like pressuring them that they need to be creating more content and like out there more. And like none of that stuff is going to matter, you know? And what really matters is like writing a beautiful song like The Wait, or you know, a day in the life or something that like connects with people for generations and like reaches people on a deeper level. And I think, you know, if social media helps you get that message out, great. But like if you let the medium become the thing driving the car, I don't even know where my metaphors are going, but you're fucked.
You're not getting
just
there.
Gonna crash. You know,
the wheels have come off.
Yeah. Amazing, Ian. Well, thank you so much for being
That's amazing, man. Yeah, for real. Thank you.
Another round of applause.
Yeah, big round of applause for Ian.
Thank you.
Go check out Acid Tongue, because I saw him last night and the show was sick. Just you know where to find him: Spotify and all the other places. So yeah,
you guys have anything coming up?
Yeah, we have some Seattle dates coming up in the next couple months, and then we're gonna do a 4 or 5 week European run in September. The Freak Out Festival is announcing tomorrow. That's gonna be in November. I think it's the November like 10th through 13th weekend in Seattle. That's the-freakout.com for the festival. I'm plugging shit that's not even mine. That's theirs.
Do it.
And then our newest album, Arboretum, just came out in December.
Arboretum.
And the vinyl's coming next month. And then our 4th album just got recorded and is getting mixed, so that'll probably be coming out top of next year, I hope.
Great artwork on that album.
Thanks. Like my friend Cassandra, her husband Eric's in Portugal, the man, but they did that art for us.
Awesome.
And
shout out to them.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you again. Be sure to go listen to Acid Tongue, and thank you for listening to The Record Shepherd. You can find us on all major podcast platforms. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, email us at therecordshepherd@gmail.com. You can also follow us on social media as well. And thanks again.
Smash that like and subscribe button.
Smash that like and subscribe button. Yeah, we haven't been saying that. We need to start saying that.
You don't need to start saying that. I promise.
Smash it.
I heard a little bit of sarcasm. I don't know if it was a lot, but a little.
That was my one digital marketing contribution.
So, until the next exciting episode, stay tuned to the Record Shepherds.
Thanks,
You
guys.
usually do it.
Who's gonna do it?
No, don't be the sheep.
No, I'm gonna say it. Follow the guidance of the shepherds.
Don't be the sheep.
Be the goat.
Be the goat.
Woo!